All right. Hello, Dr. Taylor, and welcome to our presentation on racism and the social construction of race by Janelle P., Margaret K., and me, Amelia J. So our media and why we chose these. So our first one was my contribution. It is understanding the role of racism in contemporary U.S. public opinion, and this was published in the Annual Review of Political Science, so this does fulfill the requirement for a peer-reviewed article. So Catherine Kramer, 2019, explains to the readers the impact of racism in public opinion to demonstrate how racism is not just a minor issue in America. And she cites examples like white supremacy versus Donald Trump and how football players kneel during the national anthem to make a statement. So she discusses how racism extends into politics. And then these next three were contributions from Margaret. These books and this broadcast demonstrate how the treatment of and the feelings of African Americans have remained relatively changed over time. All three reflect a black man trying to explain to a young boy the unexplainable, like how and why this kind of treatment occurs and persists in America. With half a century between publications and an additional 10 years until the broadcast, we can actually see the similarities of these experiences. So Armenia continued. These we have limited knowledge on due to communication issues, but this first one up here was from a Salt Lake City, Utah review journal, and it gives a different perspective of racism in the church. And in this case, this is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or of the Mormon Church. Then this last one was America's Enduring Caste System, and it kind of compares racism to the Indian caste system. So things like health disparities and social interactions, how those can be separated by racism. So some dominant norms, oppression, and identities. Racism can be connected to our perspectives in society. So Kramer explains a survey that showed how individual experiences contribute to their sense of competition between other racial groups. So what I mean by this is white people who view economic failure as a systemic issue rather than an individual issue were less likely to view African Americans, Latinos, and Asians as threats. So it exposed how racism isn't just an issue with emotions or just your personal preferences, quote, but it is a problem that has the potential to extend our political views and therefore how we make economic choices. It exposes the in-group bias of certain races within America as well, and it shows how ideas like immigrants cause inflation or black people just need to try harder. It explains how those ideas can become widespread through communities. It is through an in-group bias. And we have a look at the history of racism and its role in today's division. So Johnson, an African man, states that he would much rather be a black man in America today than in 1923, or even worse, in 1823. So this does speak about how we do have progress as a nation, but then he also talks about the murder of Trayvon Martin, who was a black young boy walking down the street when he was murdered by a stranger, and that stranger was later acquitted of his crime. So he talks about how lots of these things go unpunished and how lots of this just slips under the radar. And when his son asked why this is happening, he had no good explanation, which makes sense because who does? Who wants to believe that America, the land of the free, isn't free for certain people if you belong to a specific category? So current debates on racism, it's heavily connected to free speech nowadays through political correctness. Some will say, like, people are too sensitive, and then others will say, no, the words carry a really heavy meaning, and, like, normalizing these things shouldn't be okay. Even in this class, it is highly inappropriate for me to use a racial slur or any kind of dehumanizing language, but unfortunately, some will debate that, hey, maybe we're just being too sensitive. So political correctness is a huge debate that can be connected to racism. And Margaret also brought up how racism is an ongoing issue within law enforcement. And it seems that progress has been made, but black people are continue to be marginalized and are significantly more susceptible to police brutality. So some intersectional issues. This goes beyond race. In Kramer's article, she mentions how people talk about how their tax dollars go to, quote, undeserving people in the cities. this shows that there is an implication when these people say, quote, those people. Wisconsin is a heavily segregated place, and many urban residents are people of color. And they sometimes also refer to white people, like workers or city elites. So there is an issue with people's tax dollars going to undeserving people, and part of that issue is their race, but not just the race. It also is their geography, whether they're urban or rural, or whether they are part of the middle class, the upper class, the elite class. These issues, race can extend and connect with these class and these geography issues. Being black is difficult enough in America as is, but on top of that, being black and a woman exacerbates the problem, as evidenced by them being brutalized by police at a higher rate than white people, but then they're also omitted from the news, unlike black people, which started the Say Your Name movement. So on top of class and geography, gender also comes into the equation. So what we enjoyed, I personally like getting to know about how my personal experiences tie into intersectionality. I like learning about the history behind certain biases and limitations, and just expanding on my knowledge in general. Margaret did mention how she liked the collaborative discussion, which I do agree with. And Janelle liked exploring how racism impacts different areas and communities that are all different, obviously. So where did we disagree? We actually didn't really disagree too much on racism as in general. All of us do view racism not just as one issue, but an issue that connects and expands through other issues like race, class, gender, geography, sexuality. We understand that it is not just one problem, it is a big tree of problems, and there's many branches to that tree. And it makes sense because we were exposed to many of the same resources by the same professor. So our conclusion, basically, we understand that even if it is unintentional, it is largely shaped by our views, it's shaped by our religion, it's shaped by where we live, what our socioeconomic status is, things that should not be flying under the radar, they still continue to fly under the radar, and it is our duty as students to be more socially aware and willing to stand up against racism strategically rather than just emotional driven. These are the expansion notes that I read during the presentation, and then all of our references. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.